Hi everybody, welcome to episode 2, the day he got admitted and also the first day of chemo. We don't have pictures of the day that he got admitted, so we'll just talk a little bit about that experience. So the day he got admitted was the next day after the phone call that we told you about, where they called and told us the results of his last blood test that was not looking so great. And they wanted us to pack our bags. We told our kids, we prayed that night, and then the next day, they wanted us to come in there for early afternoon because they wanted to do a bunch of stuff before the doctors went home for the day. So so this is the day that we got to the hospital. It was definitely scary. For me, it was just surreal, but like I said last time, it was like we were in a little bubble of surrealness. Hard to explain.
Kind of like it wasn't really happening. Maybe this would just be a quick turnaround. Maybe God will just heal me.
That's true, because we had asked when we all got together and prayed that night, the night before, we did pray for a miracle. And we prayed with faith, knowing that God could provide a miracle. And so we didn't know. We were asking for a miracle for when they did the bone marrow biopsy at the hospital that he was scheduled for after admission, that those results would come back clear. That's what we were praying for and having faith for. So when we were going in, we were thinking, well, this could be short term. We could just be going in, getting some great news from the biopsy, and oh, never mind, you're fine. So there was that possibility in our minds. They came and did the bone marrow biopsy right in your room.
Yeah, I was a little nervous, a little bit, I guess, at first. Just hearing bone marrow biopsy, I just thought that was going to be something pretty extreme. But it turned out it was actually, the first one was actually not all that bad. Just froze me above my tushy. And they just dug in there. I didn't get to see any of it because it was behind me, but made a hole, took a little piece of bone out of there, and
bone marrow.
Pulled out some bone marrow out of my back of my hip.
I watched it.
And how did it seem to you?
It seemed almost like a little drill, but one you just kind of twist, and
it was like a little corkscrew.
Like a little corkscrew kind of drill thing, which you didn't feel, thankfully, because you were frozen. It was interesting. The same day, they also came in and gave you a PICC line, which is what they were going to use to administer the chemo straight into your bloodstream. A PICC line, for people that don't know, is like an IV that goes straight into the vein. They cut a little incision in the arm, and then they insert this hose, and it goes up the arm and into his chest, and stops right about here, just right above his heart. So
the medicine goes directly into the heart, basically.
And then the heart goes poof, and just sends it all out through his body in his blood. And that way they can give him like 2 different kinds of chemo that aren't really supposed to interact, or medicines, but one would drip and then get shot out before the other one even comes in, and because of the pressure of the heart. It's
and they're
pretty crazy, actually.
It's one line with 2 ports on the end at my arm site, and the line is about the size of the tip of a pencil, and there's a little divider inside that line, and so the medicine can be on one side and a different type of medicine on the other side. So
all in the same vein.
That's crazy.
Same hose, same
Yes.
Pretty crazy.
They freeze that again.
The incision point, and then something I didn't know, veins don't actually have nerves inside, so you don't feel it going into your vein. It's just for the little cut that they freeze you. And then you just have this lumens, they call them, just kind of hanging there till they take it out. So this was the first day we got admitted. They came and gave him his PICC line. They did the bone marrow biopsy, and then they took blood because Grant had a really high fever, and he had for like 2 weeks already at home, and they were just checking blood, I guess, to see if he had like an infection or something.
Yeah, they do blood cultures when you have a fever.
Yeah.
So
It's
they
standard. We didn't know at that time, but we definitely found out later. Through all of this, Grant had a fever. I think we figured it out. It was for like 40 days straight. That's pretty much it for the admission day. We waited for the next day to find out the results of the biopsy. Obviously, the doctors were expecting it to be leukemia. They just were also wanting to find out what kind of leukemia, which is what the bone marrow biopsy also tells them. So the next day, the doctor came in the morning-ish, I think. This was a Saturday morning now. And they had the results. I still can picture it very vividly in my head. Him coming in, he stood against the wall and there was a nurse there with him, and
Yeah, they let us know that it was acute myeloid leukemia.
I started writing notes because once he said you do have leukemia, of course I was just struggling to not lose it. I remember staring out the window and like kind of blinking, trying to like just really hyper focus on a spot to keep myself from crying while I was talking. And then I started just scribbling notes to just try and keep my mind busy, and because I wanted to know what he said. It was very fast moving, and that if they did nothing to treat Grant, that he'd have about 2 weeks left to live. And that was a shock. We weren't expecting it to be that quick at all. Like, oh my gosh, if we don't treat this immediately, it's gonna be 2 weeks. And which was really also kind of demolished our hopes of how we would have preferred to treat cancer. Because leading up to him being sick, we had always said like, man, if we ever got cancer, I don't know if we ever had this like actual conversation, but this was always a thought between us that we wanted to try the alternative medicine way, like just treat it with how you eat, treat it with different natural stuff, more natural, and never ever take chemo or radiation. So when he came in and said like, we need to do this now, it has to be aggressive chemo, heavy doses, like we got to hit you hard, fast, or you're gonna die in 2 weeks. It just completely took all hopes of any other kind of treatment away. So instead of trusting God through natural ways of trying to treat cancer, now we were gonna have to trust him to just protect Grant from this poison, pretty much, that he was gonna be having to deal with in his body. So the doctor said there's possible risk of infection, there's even possible death from the chemo, because it was such high doses he's going to be taking. He was definitely going to lose his hair, but that they were going to be working towards a cure, not just like a temporary holding off, but like a cure. So that was a bright spot that we held on to. It was going to be a week of chemo and then a recovery period in the hospital for like 3 weeks after.
And they were fairly confident that this would be treatable. So
yeah,
at this point,
yeah.
So
there was more tests that they had to do to see exactly all the things that you personally had, because they said everybody's different. Every case is different depending on the person's genetics, on any other underlying issues, on blood mutations. So they were doing a bunch of tests on him for those kinds of things. And and we found out some of the results of those. We didn't know them the day you were diagnosed with the bone marrow biopsy, but we found out before you started chemo on Monday that you actually tested positive for one of the things that makes it a little harder to treat. And I think only like 13% of people actually have that genetic mutation that you had. that makes it harder to treat the cancer, the AML. So we had also found that out. So I think that threw a little bit of a curveball into their going for a cure thing. They were still going for a cure, but it was going to be a little bit trickier because of what he had in his body. I don't even know what it is. Some kind of genetic mutation, I guess. So in your genes. So that you had to take a different extra chemo for that. Those chemo pills, midostaurin, in case any of you ever are going through the same thing. So we had to add that to the regime.
And they smelled terrible. And tasted terrible.
They smelled like skunk.
Yeah.
Didn't they?
Yeah.
They were gross, and they made you sick. I think they were the cause of a lot of your nausea.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. So yeah, he had a little bit of a twist in his.
What was that called? Do you remember?
FLT3.
FLT3.
He had a
FLT3. Yeah.
FLT3 mutation, and he tested positive for it. So yeah, threw a little bit of a monkey wrench in there, but they had ways to kind of counteract that, and we moved forward. So then for the rest of the weekend after that, Grant just was sick all weekend in the hospital.
Thanksgiving weekend.
It was Thanksgiving weekend, and we missed both sides' dinners and family pictures even that we were doing. So we have pictures of our kids alone on picture day, but it's kind of neat to look back on and see them and how strong they were that weekend. And so the picture that we have here is of the morning that he was going to get chemo. So this is kind of how he was all weekend. He was still getting like super high fevers of like 40. And
it was like that for
like 2 weeks.
Yeah, more than the weekend. But
yeah, but it just continued on.
In the hospital, yeah. For the weekend, this is basically how I was. Yeah.
And in this picture, those are like cold cloths on his belly and on his head, because he would get so feverish, and they were just trying to bring his fever down. They would put ice packs under his arms. I had a little bowl of cold water, and I was just dipping constantly cloths in there and putting new ones on him, and they'd get warm in like probably 10 minutes. They'd be hot as his skin was, and trade them out. And then he would kind of alternate between this and chills, freezing cold, and then like he'd get rigors, they'd call them, where his whole body would just like shaking, and he'd just be laying on the bed freezing, and we'd get heated blankets and pile them on him, and back and forth between, and then he'd sweat like crazy too when you had the fever, and you'd soak your sheets. Like one night we changed your bedding 5 times.
I don't remember a lot because I had a high fever, feeling horrible for a lot of the day, so I did a lot of sleeping. Yeah, just trying to kind of get through the pain and the hurt of it all. So there wasn't a lot of time to, I guess, just lay back and think, because I was more just
constantly sick
and sleeping and just trying to fight, basically. They would even come in sometimes and check my fever or check my temperature, and the machine wouldn't even register. It would just say error, which was extremely high fever. But yeah, they would go get another machine and come back and check it, and that one would say error. So
they realized it just was too high. The fever was too high for the machines to read. Yeah.
So yeah, it was quite the experience.
And watching you go back and forth between rigors and then sweating and crazy fevers where you had to have ice packs all over your bodies to keep it down. Watching that was really hard.
I remember seeing you cry a few times.
Yeah. Gonna cry again. Dang it. Stop it. Yeah. It's really hard watching somebody go through this, and you almost wish that you could just take their place and be the one going through it. But I also know like that you handled that way better than I ever would have handled that. I sure just didn't want to watch you suffer like that. It's It's really hard.
Mm.
But here we are.
Mm.